Hello folks, Phil Gallagher of ThrabenU here for another Legacy video, and today we are going to be playing with some Death and Taxes. Now this is a long overdue video. Um, Probably close to 2 months ago now, Aleph donated to see Archivist of Oghma in action in Legacy. And today, this is July 27th, this was the first time that I was actually able to find someone who had the card so that I could test it out. Um, huge, huge shout outs to Bruno Ears on Twitter, who got me this card. Two of them, actually. Like, literally could not have recorded this video without you, Bruno. Like, huge ups. So first, let's talk about this card. This is a card that has a really high upside. Whenever an opponent searches their library, you gain a life and you draw a card. Is this an effect that Death and Taxes needs? No, probably not. Death and Taxes does a pretty good job of, air quotes, drawing cards. And by drawing cards, I really mean like finding ways to get card advantage. Using all of your various like Flicker Wisp tricks and Recruiter of the Guards and your Yorion that sits in your metaphorical command zone, like you can get a lot of value out of your cards and get more cards without literally drawing cards. So why might we want to play this card? A lot of times, historically, Death and Taxes is a little bit anemic in terms of the 2-drop slot. I think especially in some of these Yorion builds. And having another reasonable early play that does something relevant is kind of cool. I will say that in cEDH, this card has impressed me. I played a pod in which Brian Koval, aka Bosch and Roll, drew like 10 cards off of this thing, yelling "Oghma balls" every time he did so, and it was very impressive. But then I've also seen games. Well, I had a game where I played this card in cEDH and drew 0 cards over the course of a game. So this is going to be one of those extremely high variance cards, and today we're going to try to test it a little bit and kind of like see, hey, is this at all viable? And the answer is probably no, as with testing new cards in Death and Taxes usually is, but every once in a while you learn something by testing out something that you think is going to like not be good. So like we're going to see like, does this card make the cut? And the answer is probably not, but I do really want to see it in action. And speaking of seeing it in action, I want to see how good Extraction Specialist is. This is a 3/2 lifelinker, and like lifelink, incidental life gain's really good in Legacy. Like every time you offset a Dragon Rage Channeler worth of value by a combat step, like that's a good thing, right? Like Solitude, 3/2 lifelinker, like very relevant body in action. And what this thing does is you can return target creature card with mana value 2 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. Now, that creature can't attack or block for as long as you control Extraction Specialist, but that's okay, right? Because a lot of these things that I'm returning, I don't care about them getting in the red zone necessarily if their annoying taxation effect is happening, or they're things like Stoneforge Mystic that might give me like value or utility even if the creature itself doesn't attack. And pairing Extraction Specialist with Archivist of Oghma kind of makes sense, right? Like, it gives you more flash. Sorry, it doesn't have flash. I thought it did. Aether Vial messes with your brain. Okay. It gives you another relevant thing to return, and this is a card that I've just kind of been curious about, but just like Death and Taxes hasn't come up in the queue in a long time. So let's see how this thing fares. 2 is like probably 1 too many. Like, it's a neat silver bullet to have access to, but I don't know that I regularly need to find it. Yeah, otherwise, most of the stuff that's here is pretty regular. Technically speaking, these should be split with snow-covered plains, but I didn't rent a bunch of snow-covered plains because I didn't realize that until I already fired it up. For predict-based reasons, otherwise, deck list looks okay. This is a deck list that I've kind of had sitting for a while. By no means am I going to claim that this is the most optimized version of this deck. This is just something I built when I saw this card, and we'll just kind of see how it goes. Anyway, if you're new here, please consider subscribing if you like what you see, and if you're a regular, throw me a like before this video begins. The Death and Taxes videos don't tend to do very well, despite my relative expertise in the deck. Alright, let's battle. Hey folks, Phil from the future here. This is a really great league, and all of the rounds are pretty good, but if you only have time for one, I recommend round 2 versus Madness. Alright, we are playing a Yorion Mirror of some kind here. I'm going to keep my hand. I've got multiple Aether Vials, I've got a Recruiter of the Guard, and I have, like, things to do with my mana in the meantime while this vial ticks up. Okay. That's fine. Alright, how do I want to address my opponent's Wasteland? Just wastelanding their wasteland and playing another Aether Vial is pretty legit here. I think I am okay with that. This is a powerful start for me. I'm very, very, very far ahead in terms of tempo. Alright, Vials go up. And I'm also going to get to, like, Rashad and port my opponent into Oblivion here. Feels good to be back. Alright. Port down Plains. And I'll kind of get to decide how I want to take over this game from here. I'm 100% going to be doing something with a Recruiter of the Guard. The question is what and when. I'm probably just going to continue to port down my opponent's shit. I'll potentially just be looking to grab a Stoneforge Mystic and use that to take over the game in some capacity. Alright, so end of turn, Recruiter shenanigans. Yes. There's Recruiter. Yes. I'm just going to take a quick look, see if there's anything I like more. I don't think so. Let's get Stoneforging. Yes. Do this thing. Okay. That's a very poor play from my opponent there. They very much should have waited until I searched. Because, like, there's some world where I grab Cauldra there. Now I'll just probably grab a Jitte. I've got a Flicker Wisp that I can put that on. I think I'm just going to leave these at 2 and 3 for now. I've got a Yorion long term that I can start thinking about, but I don't really need to mess with that in the short term. I can get Jitte counters now, and then blink Recruiter of the Guard. I don't really think that's better than me keeping my opponent's mana locked down. Like, if I have mana and I get to do things and my opponent doesn't, like, I am at a huge advantage already. So let's bash in for my 1, and then keep my opponent's mana locked down. I don't really want this third Aether Vial, but it's probably fine. Spirit of the Labyrinth is fine. Let's, at this point, go ahead and start this shenanigans. Let's Flicker Wisp. Flicker my Recruiter. Ooh, a Solitude, sure. That's fine. Alright. Now I can go ahead and get some of these ticking up. So this one at 3. I'm fine bringing that to 4. Bring the one at 2 up to 3. And then bring this one up with the intention of getting it fully out of the way next turn. Am I fine turning the corner? I think I'm fine turning the corner here. Let's Legend Rule this. Whip here. In the air, so I don't have to worry about trading at all. Alright. Good stuff. I don't think I need to blink immediately here. I'm very much, like, safe as of right now. A Recruiter is fine. It can go and, like, get a Solitude, and Solitude pitching on Flicker Wisp would be pretty good here. Alright, that is indeed probably what's happening. Am I likely enough to just kill this? That I should just do it now and not take 3? Probably. Alright, goodbye. Alright, so I'm fine with this one going up to 5. This one can stay at 3. Then this one can go up to 2. Yep, that's a Solitude junking a Flicker Wisp there. That's a-okay with me. That's all fine. Ooh, Extraction Specialist. So my stuff has gone to exile, unfortunately. Is it fine to just put Yorion in hand? Probably. Alright, and I'll pass the turn here. Okay, there's yet another land. And that's just a Yorion to hand, which is a-okay with me. Recruiter of the Guard not getting saucy here. Traction Specialist, not necessarily the best thing since sliced bread here. Don't really need to blink any of this stuff. And I am absolutely fine dumping another creature into play. At this point, I am going to always no to all of these. Yeah. Okay, that was a pretty dominating performance on my side. I do think my opponent really messed up with like this Swords to Plowshares right here. Like they were very much behind the whole game, but like if I have a Cauldra instead of a Jitte, like we maybe have a very different game. It's not necessarily saying that I would get the Cauldra in that spot, but like it could have been a discussion, whereas like now it isn't. I imagine I will board very minimally here. Like, there's various things that I can consider that aren't particularly strong. And these cards are all kind of whatever. Like, Containment Priest can be very relevant and very awkward in the mirrors. So, my Thalias aren't great, my Spirit of the Labyrinths aren't great. Those are going to be some of the cards that I'm going to be looking at cutting. Like, Thalia is just so bad versus opposing Karakas, which is often a 4 of in these lists. And Spirit of the Labyrinth just gets stalled by everything, including Thalia. So, like, there's that. I haven't played a mirror in a long time to, like, know what I actually want to take out here. Like, it's some number of those cards, but, like, the Thalias are good versus Spirit of the Labyrinth. Whereas they're bad versus Karakas. Don't know where conventional knowledge is in that regard. I'm gonna get rid of the thing that gets blanked by Karakas. And try this. One way or another, the match is probably not decided based on like the Thalias and the Spirit of the Labyrinths. Sorry, I am still a little snotty and gross. This is a pretty good hand that is just going to be like slow if my opponent has an Aether Vial start, but if they don't have an Aether Vial start, I'm pretty happy with this. So I will be keep cards. Cards good. Okay, nice. No Aether Vial start. That's very good for me. And then we'll see how awkward their turn 2 is. Oh, okay. Sure. That's an awkward Aether Vial in terms of my curve. I think I'm going to play a Stoneforge Mystic here. And I still think I'm going to get my own Jitte. Like, Cauldra is definitely attractive in some ways here. Because, like, it basically means my opponent needs to have a Flicker Wisp in order to, like, get there in the air. But, like, that sort of thing happens a good portion of the time. So something I have to keep in mind here is that my opponent could have a, like, Cathar Commando, and, like, they could have a flash creature that happens this turn. So, like, that's a thing that I need to be concerned with. I think I want to get an Aether Vial going this turn. In the worlds where they don't have a flash creature, I want to play this. Let's get this going. I think I'll pick up the Cauldra here. It just rumbles in combat very well. It sucks a little bit if I have to, like, trade. Yeah, trade this for Cathar Commando very specifically. But the world that I'm actually scared of involves my opponent, like, also having yet another removal spell for this. Alright, they're getting in there. So my opponent is going to be the one to get Jitte counters first, which is a huge, huge advantage. But kind of in good news, I do have this Extraction Specialist that can now get me that Stoneforge Mystic back. Man, do you have another Cathar Commando? That'd be pretty dope, honestly. Alright, I've got 4 mana to work with. I can get rid of my opponent's Jitte next turn pretty easily. I think I just like doing something with 2 bodies here. Alright, so this gets me a Stoneforge Mystic back. And, like, effectively draws me a card. I don't really see the need to get a Batterskull with Cauldra already in hand. I think I'm just going to pick up a Lion Sash. That's something that I can potentially vial in next turn if I need to. Yeah, that's fine. Not entirely sure why this has to happen with this timing. That's fine. This vial is going to do a lot of work. So if my opponent just uses their turn to play Timeless Dragon and like, Eternalize it, I can just, like, use a Flicker Wisp on my turn to, like, undo that action economy. Just, like, let this vial slowly tick up. Alright, so I've got 5 mana to work with. a lot of this is like, how scared am I of opponent getting Jitte counters immediately? And while it's slightly scary, I think I have the advantage in that regard. I think I'm just going to go ahead and get on board. And I can crash in for some lifelink here. Then do an end of my opponent's turn, like one of these two creatures, then follow up with like Recruiter of the Guard for something that answers their Jitte. Yeah, that's fine. A Cathar Commando, sure. Opponent losing a Caracas in process there. So let's go ahead and tap this. Yes, I'll use this ability. Let's dump the Lion Sash into play. We'll get this ticking up. I've got a Cathar Commando to think about on the other side of the battlefield. I probably just, like, force my opponent to use that in this turn cycle. Kind of, like, tap this for Recruiter of the Guard, play Recruiter, get Skyclave, Skyclave, junk my opponent's Jitte. Be attacking in for 6 damage, and I can also do either Jitte equip or double Lion Sash activation this turn. That seems fine. Let's force that activation. Just crash in with these two. Yeah. That's fine and expected. That's also fine, but a suboptimal play. That's supposed to happen after blocks, so that you don't take 3 from the Extraction Specialist. Okay. So then let's go ahead and tap this. Yes. Recruiter. Yes. And now, is there any world where I don't want to Skyclave that? Actually, Cathar Commandoing it seems totally fine. Especially since I have another Extraction Specialist in my deck. Alright. And now I can just hold this up. And if I don't need it, I just activate Lion Sash instead. That seems really strong. Oh, that's a Yori into hand. File is fine. Am I fine with just taking out the Jitte, or do I want to activate Lion Sash a bunch of times? I think I want to activate Lion Sash a bunch of times. Yeah. 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 This is just so much aggression. I am going to go ahead and tick this up for the future. There is a Wasteland. What do I have? 4, 10, 11, 4. Okay, so this is a lethal attack. I have no real reason to use the Solitude here. The attack is already lethal, and potentially is still lethal if my opponent doesn't block Lion Sash. So I'll go ahead and crash in with everything here. Okay, this is all fine then. Alright, opponent goes to 4. I've got 3 mana that deals with this. And go ahead and Wasteland my opponent's Caracas or Schadenport. And still have plenty of mana. Put my own Yorion in hand. Let's Wasteland a Caracas. That's fine. I guess this is sort of awkward, right? If my opponent has, like, exactly the one thing that punishes me, I have to pitch cast a Solitude instead of regular cast it. I'm not really expecting another Cathar Commando. But I guess I don't need to cast my Yorion. Yeah, I don't need to put the Yorion to hand here. Ooh, that is a Containment Priest. Sure. Go ahead and put my Cathar Commando into play in response. And that's fine. I have very much more than lethal coming this turn, plus a Caracas to bounce my opponent's Yorion. Yeah, your Skyclave is fine. That's fine. Yep. So end of turn. Let's go ahead and junk that. File can go up to 5 very safely. And I have just lethal on board. And my opponent is making a fool of themselves in chat. Alright. Go ahead and just finish this off. Just turn everything sideways. GG. Actually, not you don't get GG. Like, you talked shit when you already just, like, lost the game and, like, very clearly made a ton of errors that, like, cost you percentage points. So, like, yes, I used more clock than you. However, I also played a much better game. Alright, round 2 here. I don't really love my opening hand. Like, it desperately is going to need more mana. That said, it also might not be bad enough to mulligan. Like, if I am playing against a Delver-style deck, I have Mom, which is great, plus 2 remover spells, plus a relevant Spirit of the Labyrinth. I think being on the draw tilts the needle enough towards, like, this is a fine keep. I'm just, like, not excited about this hand. Or are we burning? We burning? I got Orcish Lumberjack? Okay. Alright, maybe it's not Orcish Lumberjack. Maybe it's just going to be lands. Madness! We had a pretty respectable hand versus Madness. Like, Solitude goes a long way towards disrupting a lot of the scariest possible sequences my opponent can have. And, like, an early Mom's pretty good, too. The Hollow one usually isn't online on turn 1. Usually it's a turn 2 thing. Ooh, Anger. Hello? Okay, so there was a very little thing. I'm not sure if it's going to show up. Opponent, like, tried to pay costs on something, which probably means that they do have Hollow one. But again, that card's usually active on turn 2 because you play Faithless Looting. You've discarded 2 cards, so then Hollow one costs 1. Am I okay taking a small hit, potentially, to get Mom active? I think I am. I am almost 100% going to be casting Solitude pitching Flicker Wisp in this game. Getting Mom active, brick walls, a lot of damage in the not-too-distant future. Alright, how good is the rest of your hand? It's like, it can be very good. Things can occur here. Also, how thick is my sideboard in regards to hate? Got some. So the Anji's Ravager is going to need to go. I just, like, absolutely cannot give my opponent that trigger. So my opponent can also flashback a Faithless Looting here. It doesn't look like they are going to do that, though. So let's go ahead and go to the beginning of combat. And at that point, let's cast Solitude, itching Flicker Wisp. And I'll junk the Ravager here. And I'll take a good chunk of damage. That's fine. Like, this is on the surface 6 damage, but is more realistically going to be 8 damage. Okay. I probably need to Swords to Plowshares in this turn cycle, rather than play out the more mana-efficient Spirit of the Labyrinth. Like, I would love to put Spirit of the Labyrinth into play, but it's not happening right now. I'm also just going to check these don't give trample right now. So we'll see which way my opponent wants to do this. In regards to, like, are they saving this one? They are. Let's give this pro-green. And then let's take out this plant so it doesn't come back to bite me in the butt later. And I get out of there for 1 damage, which is really nice. And now I am reaching the point that I'm stable. With an Anger in Graveyard, I'm probably not going to feel, like, relatively safe for most of this game. But, like, the worst portion of the game is over for me. Am I fine trading Spirit away? Yes. So if I thought my opponent was going to make this attack, I would have played Cathar Commando out first. So my Mom protects. Okay. That's all fine. So does my opponent have a basic land? Let's find out. I'm not actually current enough with these Madness lists to actually know the answer to this question. It would not surprise me if there is one. And I'll just leave this up. Flash is a thing. Okay, there's Bloodstained Mire. I do kind of wonder if my opponent has the Jund Splash for Kitchen Imps. Okay, there's a Faithless Looting flashback. There's a Vengevine and an Ox in Graveyard. Okay, cool. We have gotten a turn with no attacks, which is nice for me. That's a Solitude. That's real good. I think I'm just going to be hard casting that. Is this an attack? I don't think this is an attack. I think I just want this to be Solitude, and a turn or 2 down the line, blink the Solitude. God, that's awkward. Huh, okay. I want this 3/2 lifelinker in play. Alright. This just, like, is not going to answer the 2 cards that I wanted it to answer this turn. Like, I'm not here to Solitude the Lizard. Oghma! No! Ooh, that's a spicy meatball right there. The opponent, again. Opponent not doing so great with hitting madness creatures. Huh. So now they can use that to play the Ox. There's a draw 3. And then opponent can cast, like, literally any creature to get a Vengevine into play. Okay. I feel like opponent has kind of come down on the wrong side of variance here. I feel like I should be super screwed. I don't even know if I'm regular screwed yet. Yeah, honestly, it feels like this turn should have gone even worse for me. Alright, so I can, like, block Vengevine and protect. Take 7, gain 3. Be relatively happy with that. I don't really want to throw this back into the graveyard. He's just going to come back next turn. I wonder if it's better to, like, Mom block, Cathar Commando block, only take 2 damage. That feels a little better. Give this pro red. Alright. So I can Field of Ruin, destroy Taiga, and then put Yorion into my hand. That feels fine. Okay, multiple basic mountains. Alright. Now, like, do I attack with Solitude? Probably not. There's a lot of worlds where I have to, like, block with it and then protect. And there's some worlds where Mom also has to block. Alright, so there's a looting. Discarding a hollow one, notably. Okay, because there were multiple hollow ones. Sure. That thing being colorless is a huge pain here. The Solitude is always blocking here. Yeah, that's not true. If Solitude blocks here, kill this. I attack for 3, then Yorion blink a hollow one. That's fine. I don't really want my opponent doing this whole draw 3 thing. I would very much like to remove that. But, like, I can't block this and give protection from a relevant color. So I guess it's happening. Let's go pro-red here. End up ahead on life for the turn cycle. Oh, that's a really good draw. That's a really good draw. So this puts me at 13. What if I play Spirit? My opponent plays Ox. 5, 9, 10, 11 incoming damage. This is probably just too good, though. Let's blink my Solitude. End of turn. It comes back. I think I just get rid of the 4/4 here. Although there is some temptation to take out Putrid Imp because of the synergy it has. Any land that I draw means that I just have, like, Yorion, Blink Solitude every turn. And this, shutting off this sort of stuff in the Faithless Lootings is pretty good in the future. Okay, great. That's exactly the sort of thing that I'm looking for here. So the scary worlds are the worlds in which my opponent returns 1 or multiple Vengevines. Turn. Alright, do your thing. I knew this was a possibility. Let's see how bad it is. Oh, that's not too bad for me. Discard Vengevine, play double hollow one, table flip. Blazing Root Walla will trigger the Vengevine that's in the graveyard. I think that's okay for me, though. Okay, that's not a bad attack for me. I can just block that, eat this damage, and then hope to draw a land to play Solitude again and permanently remove this. I am fine with this. Alright, I did not hit a land, unfortunately. I can 2-turn this, though. I can, like, play Spirit of the Labyrinth here. I can play Mom. Play Vile. My Solitude attack is safe because this can't actually block. Can't be pumped right now. I'm gonna go ahead and take the life off of that. And then I can do... okay. Actually a little annoying. I wonder if I lose the game for that attack. Alright. Alright. Yeah, that's not great for me. Okay, Once Upon a Time. Yeah, and I didn't think my opponent was going to having another Blazing Root Walla, as like there would have been a lot of worlds where they would have discarded 2 of those from the Faithless Looting the previous turn, so I put my opponent on not having that. It was a wrong read on my end. I just want to bounce. I think I'll just block bounce. Becomes a little awkward if my opponent has the 4th Burning Inquiry. Actually, huh. So they're still served well by the discard side of the equation there. All right, that was a turn. Life's awkward for me now that I don't have that Yorion. I think my attack with the Solitude cost me this game. Like, my opponent just has enough things here where I kind of get overloaded. All right. How do I win this game? Not dying this turn is important to that plan. And killing Anji's Ravager is also probably important to that plan. So something approximating this is probably where I need to be. I probably need to keep this Spirit of the Labyrinth alive just so I can trade with a creature again next turn. Very well played by my opponent, by the way, this game. Yeah, that's not gonna do it. I lost this one. Thought I had stabilized. I did not. Like, I got punished by a couple of fringe outs, like my opponent actually having the 4th Burning Inquiry, and then also having multiple creatures to discard to it. Like, was a rough 1-2 punch there. But that one was probably winnable. Let's board in a bunch of Graveyard Hate. Is a Peacekeeper beatable here? Opponent will have about 2 Firestorm, maybe 3 that answer it. I don't tend to like bringing in Peacekeeper in air quotes fair matchups. Like, I don't want this versus Delver. I want this versus like the Grizzlebrands of the world. This deck might be unfair enough that I do want this here. I think these 2 cards are playable, but eh. What don't I want? Honestly, most of my cards are pretty reasonable. Makes this a little tricky. I really don't need a Cathar Commando. Archivist of Oghma. Like, you're a 2-2 with Flash, which is, like, definitely relevant. Like, you can trade with Wizards and whatnot, but you don't rumble very well against some of the larger creatures. So you probably get cut here. Fraction Specialist has Lifelink. Lifelink is super relevant. How is Skyclave? Skyclave's okay. Skyclave getting removed, leaving my opponent with a giant body is not great. I'm not sure on the last couple of cuts, especially if I end up bringing in these. Thalia might not be great. Like, Thalia gets in the way of me casting some of my relevant spells, which is a thing. And then I think I'm going to junk a Skyclave to have access to Peacekeeper. And I think I'll play Council's Judgment when I'm on the play, but not when I'm on the draw. I could also see junking the Jitte here for being slow. Okay. I don't think this Vile Hand gets there. Solitude is cool. I think I'm going to need to make better use of my mana than this. This is fine. It's a Containment Priest relatively quickly. However, all of the cards in my hand are kind of important. The 3rd land, like, matters a lot with being able to play Recruiter of the Guard into Containment Priest. I'm going to throw that back anyway, though. Like, there's a pretty respectable chance that I will end up... Ooh, opponent going to 5. That I will end up finding another land to just, like, play Recruiter into relevant 2-drop off Vial. There's also worlds where I end up getting things other than just Containment Priest. Containment Priest is very strong, but will shut off my Vial. But, like, there's worlds where I grab Lion Sash. There's worlds where I'm far enough ahead that I just grab, like, the Stoneforge Mystic. It just, like, depends on how aggro my opponent's start is. They're on 5. It's a tough Once Upon a Time for them. Okay, they have a Hollow one. Okay, great. So, like, the most important thing that to happen in this matchup for me has happened. And that's, like, I didn't get attacked on turn 1. And now I have, like, double removal spell up. And so, like, I can stop a lot of the Anji's Ravagers, Hollow one sort of starts now. Loot away. There's a Vengevine and an Ox, so, like, that is a good looting. Okay, there is another land, so a Hollow one will be... Oh, not yet. Alright, there is a Root Walla, which I don't care about. I know my opponent has a Hollow one, which I do care about. I've got removal spells going at these 2 creatures. Source of Plowshares, Vengevine, never have to worry about that. And then, do I want to Path to Exile this immediately? I think I do. Like, it's colorless, which is really annoying given that I have Mother of Runes here. And then here's to drawing a land. Alright, that means this turn is significantly more scary for me. Because my opponent can potentially play this Ox from graveyard. They're not there yet. They need 8 other cards in graveyard, and they've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I will absolutely tap my Mother of Runes. Absolutely good with that. Like, if I get you to blow a Firestorm now, so that that is not a thing later, I'm so good with it. Oh, Lightning Axe, sure. Is that the turn cycle? So good with that. This goes up to 3. This goes up to 1. Ooh. I can recruit her for Priest. I can recruit her for Lion's Ash. I can recruit her for Stoneforge Mystic, all of which are pretty good. I can also just play Spirit and pass with Recruiter up. How many are in graveyard? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 in graveyard. The fetch land allows my opponent to cast Ox, which isn't actually that big of a deal if Spirit's in play. This may be a mistake. I feel pretty good about this. This, like, makes all the Spirit of Labyrinth, or sorry, all the, like, Burning Inquiry type cards just, like, very noticeably worse for my opponent. It does mean that there's some worlds where I don't get to use Recruiter to get a Hate Bear. Like, if my opponent casts a Burning Inquiry, for example. It's, like, super awkward for me. Okay, not a fetch land. Is hard casting an Anger? Absolutely. Do I want to trade my Recruiter body with Basking Root Walla? Yeah. With Spirit of the Labyrinth in play, that's probably fine. Let's do that. Go ahead and jam Recruiter. Yes. I think I just want it to be Lion Sash. And let's make that trade. Alright. And then this leaves me with an active Vial. So let's take this up to 2. Activate this. Yes. Put Lion Sash into play. Going to immediately eat that Ox. I don't want that getting involved. And then I'm just going to, like, eat something else random out of there, I think. Just keep the graveyard smaller. Actually, maybe I need to leave up the other one for Vengevine. Yeah, leaving up the other one for Vengevine is probably okay. Alright. Got a pretty good position. I get to keep vialing in my threats while Lion Sash keeps the unfair stuff in check. Alright, cool. And we'll just continue to eat some permanents with my Lion Sash mana. Fraction Specialist. That can get me a Mother of Runes back at instant speed, which is cool. Can also get me my Lion Sash back if things get saucy in combat, which I would be down with. Get in there, Lion Sash. Okay. 3 damage is fine. We're not really in a rush here. Your Hardcast Vengevine is totally fine with me. Yeah, there's so many things that can happen here in combat. Nice. End of turn. Let's tap this. Put in a new Spirit of the Labyrinth. Let's tap this. Yes. Extraction Specialist. Pull a Mother of Runes out. And then I can continue to just go ahead and pick away at my opponent's graveyard here. Lion Sash just getting absolutely huge. Oh, and a Flicker Wisp. Wall. I could think about this turn, or I could just turn all my cards sideways. Yeah. Do I even care? I don't think I even care. Those can die. And then I can just do this. Yes. Flicker Wisp. Flicker Extraction Specialist. Go to end step. Extraction Specialist. Use that to bring back a Spirit of the Labyrinth. And then, I guess, at my leisure, I can pick apart my opponent's graveyard. Absolutely. End of turn, I'll go ahead and eat an Anger. And then I've just got, like, lethal on board, even if my opponent jump blocks. Oh, wait, that's not actually true. This thing can't attack right now. This is still fine. Like, I kill next turn instead. Like, I can attempt lethal right now, but things get Like, I didn't want to tap Mother of Runes at all, which is why I took the Extraction Specialist line from before. Yeah, that's fine. I even need to eat with Lion Sash now. I don't need to consume the couple of seconds of clock. Yeah. Bam, bam, bam. Jump's fine. I very much got lethal. Yep. Alright, good stuff. And then, what was I thinking about? I was thinking about potentially Council's Judgment when I'm on the draw, just as one more thing that can remove a creature. I think I'm on board with that. What is going away for that? I'm low enough on clock that I might not want Peacekeeper. I would buy that. Okay, this is a no-lander. So auto mulligan. Like, double Solitude and Rest in Peace is tempting. Don't get me wrong, but like, we gotta play real Magic. I probably keep this on 6. The Recruiter here feels like very easily the slowest thing in the hand. And like, it's the only thing that I cannot currently cast, so I'm good with this. Ooh, a gamble. This turn could get scary. Looting went to bin, which means LED can do gross things. Woo! I just fired that off. Oh, it's so risky to just fire that off. I don't think I'm gonna do it. But it's tempting. There's just so many worlds where I take out, like, all of the Vengevines for this game, or all the hollow ones, or something like that. I think that's way more valuable for me. Oh, that's awkward. I'm gonna believe. Believe! My hand's still very good. Like, I lost some very strong cards here. But I think it's okay. Oh wow, I am going to get to just play the Spirit of the Labyrinth. It's so good. Yeah. So now the Faithless Looting that's sitting in my opponent's graveyard is significantly worse. I have to keep in mind that Firestorm is a thing that can happen. So, let's crash in with this. Opponent's at 17. I think I want to Stoneforge for Cauldra. I think I just want to put that pressure on my opponent. Lightning Axe on Spirit. That is happening. Ooh. Here's an Anji's Ravager. Very strong. None of this stuff currently beats Cauldra. There's a good amount of damage. Okay, opponent has avoided playing any relevant cards into their graveyard, which is a little annoying for me. I will take no blocks here. It's not worth taking this block here and then, like, losing to LED activation. Alright, I'm at 13. Mom is totally fine and good. Let's just play out a Mom and pass. So this turn is kind of the big turn that I have to weather. Ancient Grudge. That destroys. This is indestructible. Let's go ahead and put in a Cauldra. And lose like half my life total here, which I'm not a fan of, but I don't think I can block with the Mom. We'll see how much I lose. Because LED can crack and like Basking Root Wall Pump as well. Alright, that is not happening. I'm at 6, which is probably effectively 4 in a lot of worlds. Alright. Figure out what I'm recruitering for. Containment Priest is pretty good. I am going to go ahead and just play that. I think I'll take a chip shot here. Sure. Fine with just letting that Stoneforge die in combat. Definitely got punished for my chip shot, though. I'm going to go ahead and block. Block and trade with one of those. Block here, give pro red to take 3. My pro red. Oh, I'm only taking 1. Nice. Your looting is fine. That's fine. Ooh, opponent found an Ox. Actually, I guess that doesn't matter. No, I guess that does matter. Uh-huh. That gets cast. So I don't need to do anything here with Surgical because of Containment Priest. Alright, there's a Spirit of the Labyrinth, which is totally fine. Let's play that out. Put a Yori into hand. Wasteland a Badlands. Call it a turn. I wonder... I think there was a Yori and Containment Priest bug. Don't know exactly where that ended up. So let's crash in with this. Get my 5 damage in. And let's cast this Yorion. That to blink the Cauldra. I'll just hold this land. And I think I'm stable at this point. Things can go wrong. I can Surgical Extraction and Anger if that's something that ends up needing to happen. But I'm trying not to use these points of life. Alright, Skyclave is fine. I think with a Skyclave, I can go ahead and take 2 attacks. Yeah, I think with a Skyclave, that's fine. Fine. Play that out. Exile one of these. And then I guess Surgicaling this is actively good. Should have done that in the draw step, technically. That's all fine. That's good. Alright, got some equips there. Send in with everything. And this is lethal damage, so don't even need to click anything here. Alright, GG's. Cut it a little close there in terms of clock, but that was a very complicated matchup. I don't know if I played game 1 right. That's one where I could absolutely go back and look at the VODs. Alright, I've got an unexciting but solid hand. It was a very long think for something. That just ended up being Ponder. Volcanic Island! I can't open this Gatorade! I'm not strong enough! Okay. So now the question is, like, do I want to wasteland my opponent? I basically, like, never want to wasteland my opponent. They thought for a long time. I think if they didn't think for so long, I would not wasteland them, but they did. So I'm going to take out that land and see where this goes. I just think my wasteland, like, generally speaking in this matchup, probably suits me better as a colorless land than, like, it does destroying one of my opponent's lands. I don't have a ton of reps in this exact matchup, like the Expressive Iteration version, but I've played the matchup plenty in other flavors throughout the years. I get the impression that in the current matchup, like, not wastelanding the opponent is often going to be correct. But again, don't have reps in with, you know, exact versions of deck lists. When you go from, like, being a specialist and playing one deck all the time to being a generalist and playing all sorts of things for content, like, a lot of the things that I used to, like, just, you know for sure by heart, just because I have, like, played the matchup so many times, like, a lot of that stuff goes away. Oh, this turn's actually really tough. I think I just want to play my Aether Vial. It is my least mana-efficient play, but it's a play that plays around Daze and Lightning Bolt for a turn cycle. Yeah, great. Like, I would have preferred that it resolved, but I am good with that exchange. Every Force of Will effect that I take out is just really nice. This is also a pain in the ass cantrip, because, like, it gets around this. Not technically drawing the card. Alright. So, now what? We're just gonna play a Spirit. Like, it's very good if it resolves. I'm fine with trading 2 cards for it if it doesn't. And I'm fine with it getting Lightning Bolted so that Stoneforge can live, if, like, that's the other timeline. So I have a Solitude for a Murktide Regent, and I don't super care about Delver and Pals right now. There's a fetch land. Plains? Oh. Sure. Okay, so opponent is not straight blue-red Delver. I think this probably has to happen here. Alright. That takes out my opponent's Teferi. They didn't get a card out of that, which is really nice. There are worlds where my opponent is like Kitten combo. I want to play Port. Or I just want to keep playing Plains. I think I'm fine playing Port. Brazen Borrower can't block this. Dark Token could. I think I'll still take this attack in. Okay, opponent takes the damage. And then I'm going to play a Stoneforge Mystic. See what my opponent does. That's resolved. Yeah, I'll use this ability. I think this game goes long enough one way or another that Caldra is relevant, even if Stoneforge dies. And I think I'm good with this. Opponent's on 2 cards. Target Stoneforge, see if that actually works. It does not. I'm fine with that. Like, this still leaves me with 5 power on board at the end of the day, plus a Solitude backing it up and a Caldra in the not-too-distant future. That's fine. It's very good, but it's fine. Question is, like, do they have a second Mystic Sanctuary, and are they going to find a fetch land to get it? Because Prismatic Vista doesn't get that. I need to see a few more cards out of my opponent to get a better read on, like, where exactly they are at on the controlled Delver spectrum. Plateau, sure. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is 6. Let's go ahead and just crash in with a Solitude available for if I need to get saucy. Snapcaster Mage is presumably going to Lightning Bolt my Flicker Wisp. Am I fine casting a Solitude on Snapcaster Mage so that I don't lose this creature to it? I think I am. I don't want to give my opponent that, like, super juicy 2-for-1 Snapcaster Mage clear the board scenario. Alright. Get out, Snapcaster Mage. And now they can, like, have their choice of which one of these they actually want to bolt. In the worlds where it's Skyclave, that's not actually all that bad for me because I have Flicker Wisp to just blink that. So, like, I don't care about that as much as you might think I might. Archivist of Oghma has appeared. And my opponent, like, has a fetch, too. I am prepared to scream Oghma balls, as Brian has taught me to do. Alright, goodbye Illusion Token. Bash in for 6. Oghma. Oghma. Oghma, 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 Oghma. Brrr. Batch, I need it. I need it. Alright. We're gonna try to get our Oghma value. Now we just look like a bad Death and Taxes player who forgot about their Yorion. Mentor? That's pretty good. Now it's slightly awkward because I want to use my mana and play this. I guess forcing my opponent to fetch poorly is, like, a thing in the face of a Mentor. Yeah. Ooh. That's not the land drop I wanted to just, like, cast Kaldra, but it's pretty good. So let's do it. Opponent's got 1 card in hand. Take that critter out of the way. A little awkward if my opponent has a removal spell, though. And, like, maybe I shouldn't even attack with this for this reason. Right, opponent goes to 2. I think I'm just going to put the Yorion into my hand. I don't think porting my opponent off of any one mana source does anything reasonable right now. Alright. So, we're playing against a Jeskai control deck that is looking to finish with Mentor. The Mentors probably mean that something like Kitten Combo is not in the deck. There could be a Days Undoing still. I don't know that I have much for this matchup, just kind of quickly thinking about it. Like, Council Judgment sounds good. Don't know how much of this other stuff I actually want. Like, Rest in Peace to shut off the graveyard as a resource is, like, definitely playable. Path to Exile is playable. I don't know how good any of this stuff actually is. Not sure what I want to cut. Jite feels pretty medium. Feel relatively safe junking that. Our Commando seems pretty weak. I feel fine junking that. I just haven't played enough of this specific matchup to know what's important. I assume if I answer my opponent's creatures as they appear, I have all the time in the world to grind value. I imagine that my Yorion BS is similar to their Planeswalker BS in terms of grinding. This is good. Feels fine. If I didn't have double Extraction Specialist, I think I would be slightly more interested in Rest in Peace. I really like this hand. This is very good if my Aether Vial doesn't just immediately eat a Prismatic Ending. Which is not something that I saw in the previous game, but is something that I expect to be in my opponent's deck. Alright, keep. My opponent has taken a mulligan as well. Okay, great. Pretty much 100% of the time, I am taking this line here. The more interesting lines start happening next turn, where, like, I have a choice about whether or not I'm porting my opponent or playing Athalia. Alright. Never mind. We're playing Athalia next turn. There's worlds where that's not true, but probably 90+% of the time it's just going to be Plains Thalia. I was about to say, the only time that potentially changes is if I just draw another Aether Vial. If I play Thalia, my opponent can just, like, use any removal spell on it and make good use of their mana in this turn. I think I am just going to play Vial and pass the turn, and I've got Source of Plowshares for if my opponent just, like, tries to jam a Mentor down my throat early. This just plays around a lot of removal better. It doesn't play around Teferi better, like Thalia unquestionably would do that. But I think, like, there's too many worlds where I just eat end of turn Lightning Bolt or Swords to Plowshare, followed by, like, Teferi or something like that, and I just kind of end up in a bad spot in terms of resources. Absolutely. So this is going to make my Rishadan port really good for next turn. Sure. Probably going to Rishadan port this Plateau and just make it so that, like, the white removal that can deal with Aether Vial doesn't do its thing. Vial goes up. Ooh, I like that better than porting. Yeah, I like that better than porting, I think. Wish I had played port last turn, given, like, that development. Do I play Thalia? I think I do. I think this is worth the risk here. Nice. Just really pushes my mana advantage hard and lets me Recruiter for another 2-drop next turn if I'm on the casting stuff train. Sure, that's fine. Ooh. This being a prismatic ending would kind of suck for me. Ooh, is that it? Nope. It's actually going to be a pretty tough Recruiter of the Guard. It's super tempting to just, like, press my opponent's resources with his Recruiter of the Guard and just, like, Recruiter for Thalia, and then, like, Thalia port forever. But I get so much better value by going, like, Recruiter into Stoneforge. Or Recruiter into Spirit of the Labyrinth also is reasonable middle ground. Let's start by casting this and see if it resolves. It does. Now it's harder. The Archivist of Oghma, just saying. Totally could. I think I like Spirit of the Labyrinth here. Like, the Spirit of the Labyrinth demands an answer from my opponent. Otherwise, it shuts off the remaining Ponders and Brainstorms. Doesn't shut off this bullshit, unfortunately. Okay, there's a Vista. I think, like, setting this up and shutting off some number of my opponent's cards, and then, like, working towards having Yorion Recruiter of the Guard a little bit later. I think that all sounds very nice. Let's attempt to bash in there. I've got a Swords to Plowshares for, like, a Snapcaster Mage that's doing an Ambush Viper impression. Not happening. I'll go ahead and send Yorion to hand. Okay, we're just chilling. I'm good with just chilling. I am going to tick this up to 4, and then later to 5. Ooh. Let's attempt to fight. I'm kind of expecting something to happen in combat here. Kozilek's Return. That is perhaps not something that I expected. Quite good for my opponent. Yeah, I'll use Stoneforge's ability. This might just honestly be Lion Sash. And then, like, cast Lion Sash while holding up mana to stop a Snapcaster Mage. I think I like that. I don't really want to deal with a second. Anyway, I don't really want to deal with a second Kozilek's Return. So let's eat that so that doesn't happen. And then I can work on blinking. Oh, yeah, that's very good. A Lightning Bolt, sure. Do I have any reason to do Solitude now? I don't think so. That's just going to occur, and I'll just Solitude uncounterably off of Vial. Nice. Tap this. Yes. Solitude. Solitude a Mentor away. Doesn't feel like my opponent has a counterspell. But I think porting my opponent is pretty good here. It just keeps them off of main phase white on a very, very, very important turn. Hey, there's a Snapcaster Mage. Feel very good about eating that Kozilek's Return now. I just want to Swords to Plowshares this Monk token right now. Yes, I do. And we'll see what my opponent... Okay, they are going for the Mother of Runes. Not surprising. Alright, so at this point, we could say always no to that, and always yield to that. Take that out of the way, and then attack in, and not have to use my Yorion at all. Down with that. Bash in with Solitude. Alright, opponent takes the damage. See if there's Mystic Sanctuary nonsense here. I'd like to find a Karakas to protect this Yorion. Not even sure that I want to dump it into play. Okay. there is the Flooded Strand. Is it getting expressive iteration? It is. Well, I guess properly, let's let that ability resolve. Okay, it did resolve. And actually, do I want to just take out Tundra? Maybe I just want to take out Tundra and not let this Vial get hit. Yeah, I think I like that. All right, there's the expressive iteration. Not sure whether or not I'm going to pull the trigger on the Yorion just as like a 4/5 flyer. There's a very real case to just like try and just shove over the finish line here, but there's also an equally real case where like every card worth of value that I get out of the Yorion is just like so good. That is a Snapcaster Mage. The next turn, Snapcaster Source of Plowshares answers Yorion. Can hit my opponent for 7. Yeah, I think I'm going to try to force my opponent to use their Snapcaster on Solitude. Oh, I see. Sure. So now I could Vial in Yorion here. End of turn, Yorion, Snapcaster, Solitude stuff. That's not bad. I'll bite. That's good enough value for me that I think I just accept it. There's a Stoneforge Mystic. I will bash in for my 4 points of damage. Put my opponent to 8. I'll cast a Stoneforge Mystic. This is just going to get me a Cauldra. And end of turn, my critter comes back from Solitude. I take that creature out of the way. Now I will just keep my opponent off of main phase white mana. Guess I can get rid of this zone. So it seems like opponent has a Source of Plowshares and they're trying to figure out what to do with it. A pretty legitimately tough choice for them if they don't have a second removal spell in hand. Because, like, this Stoneforge Mystic slipping this Cauldra in play is, like, absolutely horrifying here. It seems like that's happening. So, let's attempt to do a large number of damage points to my opponent's face. Fantastic. I think it's more important to keep my opponent off of Prismatic Ending for this token than it is to play Spirit of the Labyrinth, although Spirit of the Labyrinth is pretty good. Like, I've really been keeping my opponent choked on this Tundra, and I would like to, like, I would like that to continue to be the case. Because, like, if that's not a Source of Plowshares and that's a Prismatic Ending, right, like, that's a game-winning line for me. All right, and we still just get there. We're now up to 3-0. Hey folks, I hope you're enjoying the show. If you are, and you're in the position to financially support me, please consider doing a donation deck list or doing something that pledges some money my way every month, be that a Patreon subscription or a YouTube membership. If you support me on Patreon or become a YouTube member, you do gain access to my Discord, which is a pretty chill place. Alright, plug over. Let's get back to the content. We have double Oghma balls. Unfortunately, we have no basic planes. Single Oghma balls. Alright, keep. Note that, like, it's probably correct to put back the Archivist of Oghma here. However, I'm not doing that, and you can't make me. You need to draw at least one card with Oghma in this league, or there is no justice in the world. Alright. We got a Mom. Got an Oghma. On turn 2. Maybe we'll do stuff. Cavern? Gobos. Vial. Oh man, Vial makes Wastelanding my opponent so much worse. Team Goblin Leader. Goblin Team Leader. Okay. Oh man, I drew Stoneforge. Probably just, like, supposed to get Jete and ruin my opponent's life that way. Alright. I'll do the good Magic player thing. And did my opponent beat a Cauldra? Just 5, 10, 15, 20. The answer is like no, right? Right? Yeah, this might just be better. Like, Cauldra with Wasteland backup on the play seems pretty gross here. And, like, I have Mom for Sting Scourger, which is, like, the only out that, like, comes to mind for me, aside from my opponent just randomly producing a Muxus. Alright, there's Wasteland. We can even do this pre-combat here. Uh-huh. Sure. Target Mom. Mom will go ahead and protect herself from red. And then we'll just do this thing. Card is very dumb. I think there's a lot of times where, like, just getting the Jete like, very early does disgusting things to my opponent as well. But I don't know that I want to go into a grindy game versus goblins. Like, if I can just get the game over with, like, that sounds great. Opponent needed probably both Goblin Lackey and Muxus to really punish me. Or I guess, like, actually factually have the Sting Scourger. Like, that does stuff as well. Alright. I don't really need to attack with Gunforge Mystic. Like, it's probably not changing my math long term. And maybe opens me up to tapping the mom in a way that I don't want to. Well, let's crash in with a Cauldra here. Opponent goes to 10. Now I think I want something that deals with my opponent's Vial. Unfortunately, I don't think I have the tempo to play this. So let's go ahead and Recruiter. Yes. Skyclave is fine. Flicker Wisp is fine. Kind of like Flicker Wisp since it flies. I think I like Flicker Wisp since it flies and is slightly more flexible. It's fine. I guess if my opponent is playing like full-on combo goblins, like there's worlds where I can lose for not getting a Solitude there. Baldur Harbinger. Yeah, they are playing the combo version. Yeah, I might have messed up by not grabbing Solitude. Like, when I made my decision, like, that was not known information. And I can still, like, Flicker Wisp Recruiter of the Guard to, like, get rid of the Snoop. It's probably what I'm doing with my turn cycle. Against my opponent's build of goblins, like, Jitte is very good. Like, it just shuts off so many things. Alright, so there's the Flicker Wisp. Flicker Wisp target Recruiter. Move to end step. Recruiter, yes. Grab Solitude. And I think I just get rid of Snoop now. I don't want to wait on this and do it with the wrong timing and kill myself. This Archivist of Oghma, like, would have been a respectable card to have in play this game, just by the way. I just, like, haven't had the opportunity to cast it. But that's mostly because my cards are just so good this game. They're, like, first world problems. Okay, something's happening. It's probably going to be the Baldur Harbinger to just, like, fix draws for the turn. Oh, okay. Similar effect. A Munitions Expert is actually pretty good. File is fine. And it does still have the mana for Munitions Expert at instant speed. Okay, we got there. I potentially could have played tighter. I don't know all of the various, like, Goblin, Aether Vial, Bogger, what's his name, lines involving Conspicuous Snoop. Alright, I like Path to Exile here. Containment Priest is probably fine. I don't think I like anything like a Peacekeeper. Council's Judgment is really slow as removal. But, like, Weird Labyrinth and Thalia aren't particularly good in this matchup. Some number of those are going to go. Just like, do I want the first striking ability of Thalia or not? The taxation side is almost certainly not relevant and probably hurts me more, but like a 2/1 first striker is a real thing, especially if Jitte gets involved. The actual answer may be that, like, I do some of each, rather than one of them being objectively just better than the other. I'm gonna go 3 Thalia out, though. Oh, maybe I do cut all 4. If I cut all 4 while bringing in these 3 cards, that does make, like, my own Source of Plowshares and Paths and Judgment better. Getting rid of the Thalias also makes it more likely that I can hardcast these when we get into those real drag-down fights as the games go super long. I think I'm okay with this. There's also a world where I want to play the one of Peacekeeper over, like, Spirit of the Labyrinth, but my opponent has so many ways to kill creatures, I don't think I actually like that. Aether Vial's a hell of a drug. What I will say about this hand. Like, oh my god, my opponent is going to 4. Holy shit. It seems to me like my opponent is trying to mulligan towards, like, Goblin Lackey land Muxus. That's about the only hand that I see beating me from, like, a mulligan that low. And unfortunately, I don't have Swords of Plowshares, Path, Solitude, or Mom. I am, however, very good versus an opposing Ether Vial, which my opponent does not have. So I just get to start a Aether Vial ticking up, and I get to back it up with a Wasteland on one of my opponent's 1 or 2 mana sources. That's this is a bad beat scenario for my opponent. All right, up we go. There's very few things here that I can draw that are going to be better than just Wastelanding my opponent here. I'll do it in my opponent's upkeep, I guess. Goodbye, Cavern. And this is pretty cruel. Okay, like a Mana Dork is great for my opponent. Vial will go up. I'm probably putting in Lion Sash and just eating twice immediately. Unless I have a very strong reason to do something else. Do I need to do this at instant speed for any reason? I think I need to do it now. Doing this now just means that I am significantly better versus red removal. So, like, while this isn't the most stellar play in the world, like, I just have a 3/3 that is going to continuously grow larger. And then, like, I can recruit her for, like, literally whatever. It's one of those, like, the world is my oyster situations. That's a removal spell, but not necessarily the one that I want here. I think I just do everything that I can to impact the board right now. Let's go ahead and do this. Yes. Recruiter. Yes. Just grab, like, a Skyclave. Play a Skyclave. Just use this to take out the Mana Dork. Bash in with a 3/3. And then I can actually start grinding value with this other Recruiter of the Guard next turn. Pyrokinesis. Pitching a Trash Master. That's fine. Ooh, there's more. A Snoop. That's fine. Let us stop in my opponent's draw step. There's a lot of worlds where I end up killing that in draw step. Yeah. Let's tap this. Yes. Grab Recruiter. Yes, use this ability. I'll just grab a Flicker Wisp here. I don't think I actually need to tick this up. Ooh. That's really good. I don't think it's better than casting this Flicker Wisp and pathing, but it's really good. I am going to offer this trade. I'm just totally good with this happening. Kind of expected that my opponent wouldn't be. And let's do this. Flicker Wisp. I'm just going to target the Recruiter here and use my path. Just continue this whole chain. Yes, I will pick up another Flicker Wisp. And I'll go ahead and let my opponent draw that Wasteland, which in my mind is a dead draw. And I'll go ahead and just path that creature out of the way. Got 3, 4, 5, 6 damage on board. Plus, like, Flicker Wisp, Rishadenport. I've got all sorts of goodies backing this up. Alright, this Vial can stay here. Bear the Labyrinth is kind of whatever as a draw. But opponent's close enough to dead that I don't think most of what happens in the rest of this game actually matters. Let's go ahead and bash on in here. Drops opponent to 7. I'll make this land drop. I've got 2 mana for Cathar Commando. Guess I can play out Spirit Labyrinth as well. Let's do this. I don't think I get to go to my upkeep with this Wasteland still intact, which is why, like I said, I had the mana for Cathar Commando. I think I just get Wastelanded right here. Yeah. I guess I don't need to crack this in most worlds. And in fact, probably don't want to. And then let's go ahead and go for the Throat here. And we're going to go ahead and just Flicker Wisp and flicker out a Badlands and just leave my opponent on no real cards that matter. They have no red cards in hand, so they can't, like, Pyrokinesis me and wipe this board or anything. I'm not expecting that my opponent has any outs to what I have going on here. Yeah, and that is another concession for 4-0. Let's see if we can dust off those old Death and Taxes skills and pick up a trophy. All right, playing for the trophy here. I have a reasonable opening hand. I am hoping not to be playing against combo here. Like, it's... Oh, yeah. I like this. Vial or Mom would be great draws. Lands are totally fine. So we are playing against, you know, a blue-red Delver or blue-red Delver adjacent deck list. Baubles make it, pretty abundantly clear that Dragon Rage Channeler is probably in the deck, although occasionally, like, that sort of thing does just end up representing fuel for Predict. So I don't actually have removal right now, is kind of one of my issues. I think I like offering up a Thalia to the gods of days here. There we go. Like, I've got 2 of her. That effect is redundant. And we'll see where the rest of this goes. An immediate Murktide Regent will probably beat me. Looks like that's not happening, which is great. I'm gonna assume that Field of Ruin doesn't instantly just sinkhole my opponent. I also just, like, want to be casting creatures right now. A little awkward to cast a Thalia into a Lightning Bolt here. This straight up might be an Archivist of Oghma turn. Purely so that my opponent can't just Lightning Bolt my creature that I play. But I don't like that more than having Thalia in play if my opponent does not have Lightning Bolt. So there's that. I don't know, I just like feel the Lightning Bolt in my soul. I'm going to play around it by playing Archivist of Oghma. Archivist of Oghma, Field of Ruin, also very notable legacy combo. There's an expressive iteration. This is probably going to accidentally turn this into a 3/3 flyer and make my Archivist less likely to ambush it in combat, which is unfortunate. There's a Brainstorm in exile. That's fine. I wanted my value this turn off of this card. Like, the 1 card here matters a lot, because, like, one more land drop is the difference between me being able to, like, Thalia and Stoneforge in the same turn cycle, for example. Okay, a Bauble as well. Opponent 20 cards deep in their deck already. So deep. That's all fine. Taking this damage. Going to 16. I'll play the Archivist at end of turn. It probably resolves and just gets bolted at some point next turn. There's a lot of worlds where I need to, like, resolve this Recruiter to go and get a Solitude for, like, the Murktide Regent that is almost certainly coming. Alright. Bauble draws a card. There's a Source of Plowshares. That gives me some lines where I can double spell. I like that. So let's attempt to get this thing out of the way. I'm getting a little more information before they do so. And then I think I want to make the Lightning Bolt that I think my opponent has more awkward. All right, they have another Daze. Card is currently bugged on Magic Online because, of course, like, one of the most played staples would break over a random update. I actually don't mind the Thalia getting dazed, though. Like, the Thalia getting dazed means that the Recruiter for Solitude is less likely to get disrupted, and that's what I assume actually matters here. We're still in your upkeep. I don't think you want to be doing anything in your upkeep. Okay, Delver, that's fine. Follow-up Murktide Regent would not be fine. So I'm not sure if you're supposed to play out that Delver pre-ponder like that. Seems wrong to me, because now you can't Murktide Regent, which is just better. Okay, I have a 4th land drop. So I guess I can take my Oghma attack while I figure out the rest of the turn. That drops opponent to 18. I'm so tempted, but I just, like, feel in my fucking soul that my opponent has a Lightning Bolt. Feel it in my fucking soul, and I just can't bring myself to play into it. So I'm gonna just try to keep playing this long game here for where I beat the Murktide Regent that I'm scared of. Force pitching Force. There's that Lightning Bolt that I successfully played around. We do have to, like, see if my opponent has access to Murktide, though. Because, like, it's definitely spooky. I can knock counters off of it with Flicker Wisp. Archivist of Oghma gets a B this game. Like, it almost did something really cool. Okay, that's fine. That probably takes out my port. Alright. Fuck Murktide Regent, though. I'm in 0 position to, like, play around, like, a 3rd Daze from my opponent here. I just, like, very much have to play this, or I take infinity damage. So if they have the 3rd Daze, this is disgusting. They do not. Alright, cool. They get to knock the counters off of Murktide Regent, which is nice. I'm still not on the right side of the board here, and my opponent can just like find a lightning bolt, remove Flicker Wisp, and I take like 6 followed by 6, and then I'm dead to another lightning bolt effect. Delta, you're just like a little late. Right, they're just gonna fish out another EI for next turn, which does grow Murktide Regent, unfortunately. Jesus, they had the bolt too. What a string of cards. Yeah, I believe I am just dead. Like, my Stoneforge for Batterskull isn't fast enough now. Yeah, because I take 7 in the air. Stoneforge doesn't interact with that. That's a shame. I had, like, so many great tools, and I just didn't get a chance to deploy them, unfortunately. Alright. Gonna be the hard way, then. I like Paths, and I like Rest in Peace. I don't want Peacekeeper. I'll probably play Council's Judgment. That's probably going to be good enough. I do not want Cathar Commando. And then, like, from here, most of my cards are pretty good. Archivist of Oghma, unfortunately, is probably the weakest link here, so I think I have to cut the card that I am trying to test. It's like, just so hard to justify cuts here. Go down some number of Thalias. Could go down some number of Recruiters. I think Extraction Specialist is really good at just, like, rebuying all my early plays, so I don't think I want to junk that at all. I'll go down, like, 2 Recruiters to just get these other removal spells in the deck. This is fine. I'm not excited about it. This is fine. I'm just kind of furthering something that I said earlier. I don't want to be really wastelanding Delver in this matchup. Like, Expressive Iteration just makes it so that, like, you are not going to just wasteland Delver into oblivion forever and come out ahead. Like, especially since they can play a very reasonable turn 1 threat like this. And, like, the Dragon Rage Channeler gives so much selection as well that I don't really want to wasteland my opponent here. So, like, now the follow-up question is, like, do I want to play around Daze? It's such a like, the tempo cost of playing around Daze is horrifying. I don't think I am going to play around it here. Like, it sucks if I get dazed, and, like, there's a very good chance that I flood out this game. But I think if I just, like, don't use my mana for anything at all here, my opponent could just, like, play Dragon Rage Channeler into Delver or something like that, and I'm just, like, woefully behind with very little chance of ever digging myself out of that hole. Whereas now I have a much better chance of, like, resolving a Stoneforge for a relevant card and trying to take over the game that way. Yeah, we'll try again next turn. That's fine. He did also have the line of, like, wasteland that open land, go to second main phase, and then play Stoneforge. That might have been better. I also think I probably have to attack in here. Maybe I don't. Maybe I don't. There's some worlds where these aren't flying next turn. Not a lot, but some worlds. Yeah. This is the problem with not attacking. It's Ponder specifically. It's not really Expressive Iteration. His opponent wouldn't be getting great value off of that card if they played it, like, with Athalia in play. I'm very far behind. Alright, Stoneforge or Flicker Wisp. Both are very bad versus Lightning Bolt in different ways. I think I play Flicker Wisp and force some sort of removal spell on it, otherwise I trade for one of these. Like, the longer I wait on the Stoneforge, the worse it is. But I can't just keep taking like, sets of 6 from this. The real issue is, like, a follow-up Murktide Regent here just beats me. Against a follow-up Murktide Regent, playing Stoneforge first is better. I can play Stoneforge, my opponent Murktides, I knock the counters off of it, I activate Stoneforge. I'm always attacking with Thalia, that is always happening. I guess I can just do that. I guess in the worlds where my opponent has a Murktide, which is a very reasonable card that they could have, I need to just play this later. Also just worse use of my mana. I'm not the biggest fan of that. Alright. Stoneforge has resolved. I think this is Batterskull. There's worlds where it's not. Like, very specifically, the Stoneforge Mystic getting removed is going to leave Batterskull stuck in my hand because of my own Thalia attacks. Yeah, okay, I think they have the follow-up Murktide Regent. I take 6. Oh, okay, it is an Expressive Iteration. Fine, Daze is still going to be very good against me. Mystic Sanctuary. Picking up EI is just picking up EI. Okay, I don't think I can use my Wasteland here. Okay. I don't want this Flicker Wisp to eat it to a daze. May not have a lot to say about that. Like, I think it's going to be if they have it moment. I think I'm going to go ahead and put a Batter Skull into play. Oh, wait, I don't have to worry about daze because of Thalia. I'll go ahead and play out my Flicker Wisp. Go ahead and target Stoneforge. Get an extra card that way. Already made my land drop. Bash in for my 2. And let's see if we can dodge a Lightning Bolt. Picking up Jitte. Just more ways to gain life next turn matters. So I know opponent has EI on top, so like Delver flips to that, and then the question is just like, do they have Lightning Bolt in hand? They can find land plus Bolt with EI. Ah, shit, they put a card on top. That probably means I lose and miss my trophy. Unfortunate. Okay, there's a Dragon Rage Channeler in exile. So I will go ahead and Flicker Wisp block one of those. Go to 2. There's a new Dragon Rage Channeler. Okay, hot damn. Wow, that's a draw. Whatever I play resolves. Whatever I play resolves. So I can gain 4 life here, go up to 6, and then just have a Rest in Peace in play that is going to prevent Murktide Regent from being a card that matters in the future. I like that. I don't think I'm wastelanding my opponent here. I think my lands are too valuable. Alright, so there's Rest in Peace. Gonna attack for 7 and play out Jitte. Think so. Yeah? That's a pretty big life total swing. That puts me to 6. I guess I can still die to a Lightning Bolt to the face and a Delver attack, but I've stopped the Dragon Rage Channelers. I don't know, maybe double wastelanding my opponent gives me better percentage points versus Bolt specifically. Alright, I go to 3. Double wastelanding my opponent doesn't stop my opponent if they just have the Bolt in hand. They can have Brazen Borrower. Probably have to do this in a way that splits up my life gain. Go ahead and do an Equip to Thalia here. This crashes in, this crashes in. If I make one more attack, in theory, a chump block of some kind has to happen. Let's do this and see what my opponent has. Oh shit. That's real good for me. I'll let regular combat damage happen. Oh. Okay. Sure. Feel like there were probably better lines for my opponent there. I do think on my previous turn, I was like maybe not supposed to play out the Jitte, and I was supposed to double Wasteland off of this so that like cantrip into Lightning Bolt is not an out anymore. I think that was a mistake on my end. But we get to try to play again. On the draw here, I might want Recruiter as additional copies of Solitude, just every single thing that could possibly be a removal spell in my deck. I like Thalia a little bit less on the draw. Like my Aether Vials a little bit less on the draw where they're dazed as well. But I might just have so much fat in this deck that I just kind of accept it. I don't really know what my cut is supposed to be. I could see cutting Extraction Specialist on the draw. I think I'm just going to do Thalia, though. Like, Thalia is really cool in so many ways, but every time that I have to pay the tax on my own Thalia in order to remove a creature, like, I am very much going to feel that. This is a great opening hand. Like, Mom is a fantastic early play. I have an early removal spell as well for Dragon Rage Channeler. I might even Swords to Plowshare as a Dragon Rage Channeler on turn 1 rather than play Mom. Delver, though, I don't think the same is true for. Dragon Rage Channeler just provides selection in a way that Delver doesn't. And I kind of like the idea of playing a Swords to Plowshares around Daze next turn. Hey, no blind flip. Nice. Are you going to attack? I think you're going to attack. I don't know how I feel about that. I've got a Swords to Plowshares to use on that, but, like, probably means that my opponent doesn't have removal. My opponent doesn't have removal. The Mom's not doing a ton anyway. If I save the Swords to Plowshares for a better card, I am kind of on board with that. I'm going to take the trade here. Yeah, I'll Swords to Plowshares that. Yeah, I think I'll Swords to Plowshares that around days. I might cast Swords to Plowshares during my opponent's turn to play around Force of Negation, though. Don't really want these fields right now. Yeah, let's do opponent's turn Swords to Plowshares. Allows my opponent to potentially brainstorm in response to try to protect this. But plays around a different card instead. Luckily, like, their graveyard isn't very full of instants and sorceries right now. Okay. You're just Murktiding. Yeah, that's a Murktide. There's a 3/3 Murktide that I can fight with Recruiter of the Guard or Solitude if I am willing to play this card into days. Alternatively, I can just play Lion Sash. So this is whenever an instant or sorcery card leaves your graveyard very specifically. The issue with just playing out Lion Sash this turn is that then I won't have something to pitch to Recruiter. Is real. I think I'm just gonna live with that and play out the Lion Sash this turn. Like, this is Delver Plus. Alright. Now, if this thing ends up getting backed up by something else, then it starts getting scary. Like, if my opponent has a second Murktide Region in hand and plays one of those next turn, then I'm very scared. Alright, yeah. This is the point where this starts to get horrifying, right? Like, now, opponent next turn is going to 100% have the fuel to cast another Murktide to grow the first one. So if I draw a white card, I might have to Recruiter for Solitude and just take out Murktide Regent that way. Alright, so, like, I'm only taking 3 from this Murktide Regent, but I am so scared. Stoneforge Mystic. That is a very valuable card to pitch with Solitude. It might still just be happening. I am so afraid. Like, the play pattern that my opponent has taken here just really makes me think that they have another one. I grab a Solitude, and now the question is, like, do I just do this now? Or my opponent can, like, brainstorm in response to this? I don't think so. Gives them another draw. I might need to respond here. I don't know that I can, though. Like, if I just respond here and then my opponent just goes fetch land Murktide Regent, I'm still just, like, super fucked. But, like, this gives them another chance at Force of Will in hand. Murktide Regent. Fantastic. Uh-huh. Yeah, so opponent left it. So now this happens. So this is the point where I have to just pull the trigger on this Solitude and hope my opponent's last card is not, like, Force of Will plus blue card. Alright. So I take out a Murktide Regent. My opponent is left with another 7/7 Murktide Regent at the end of the day. And life is awful. Like, I can play a Field of Ruin here. Taking out these is technically better. I can take out one of these, get a basic Plains with this search. And I've got 3 mana to put my Yori into hand. I can play that next turn for Recruiter. Try to find something that beats my opponent, but, like, my opponent had the second Murktide Regent, so most of what I do doesn't matter. I think I need to, like, rip another removal spell just naturally. Also, like, opponent can just, like, ponder for Force of Will specifically. Even just, like, a Lightning Bolt that takes out this Recruiter so that I can't, like, Yori and find Solitude is really bad. And it seems like opponent has one. Oh, it's another Ponder. Well, one of their cards is another Ponder, more accurately. They have a Lightning Bolt, like 7/14, plus Lightning Bolt kills me as well. So they might not even just play another creature. Yeah, that's fine. This is maybe supposed to attack as well. Alright, so this is 5, this is 6 total mana. So I can't actually play, like, Thalia into Yorion to protect myself. And I need Thalia to pitch for a Solitude anyway. Alright. Do you have it? Hey! There's Recruiter. There's Recruiter doing Recruiter things. Pick up a Solitude. I believe that I do need to just immediately stop this 7 damage from happening. And I'm going to do it now. Or my opponent has any other chance to use mana. Alright. I think opponent is still favored, but there's hope for me. Ugh. I am so tired of playing against this deck. Like, this deck just has such a good endgame with Expressive Iteration and Mystic Sanctuary. And it's got, like, the best early game because of, like, Dragon Rage Channeler. The best counterspell speed, and yada, 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 yada. Now, I'm a little reliant on my top decks. I can field and fuck with my opponent's lands a little bit. That helps a bit, but like at the end of the day, I need to draw a banger. I will absolutely block the Dragon Rage Channeler here. I just like need to take this out. I can't let my opponent have the degree of selection that they have. Yep. That was, you know, non-option for me. Just had to happen. Ooh, cool. That miss coupled with the lightning bolt probably means that I can't win from here, unfortunately. I will go ahead and Field of Ruin. Take out one of these lands. Grab a Plains. In my land drop, I've used my Pokemon Companion. And we'll try to keep my opponent off of red. The issue is that, like, opponent can fire off bolts in upkeep if they find bolts. And this is probably the last turn I have to top deck something that deals with Delver before I just, like, lose to this card. Literally or effectively. That's not good. Oh, they did choose to shuffle. Yeah. Probably dead. I'll leave back both creatures in case I'm not, but if Delver flips, I die. If opponent finds Lightning Bolt, I die. At least if I leave back double creature, I play around some, like, End the Festivities type card, I guess. Or no, End the Festivities also does, like, 1 damage, so I guess that doesn't do it. This is totally random. Flipping to Lightning Bolt, which kills me in multiple different ways. So this is just the 6 damage to the dome that kills me. Or, like, the bolt in upkeep next turn kills me as well. So unfortunately, we end up with a 4-1 in this league. Overall thoughts on the deck. Archivist of Oghma was an acceptable Magic card that didn't actually successfully do its trigger in this league. There were times where if the game went on for another couple of turns, I would have very much liked having this. This is competing pretty heavily with, like, a lot of the early game setup that this deck does of, like, playing out Mom and Spirit of Labyrinth and Thalia and Stoneforges and stuff and getting those going. So, like, while the card's not bad, it's not having a high enough immediate impact on the game that it's worth playing out over the other things, which probably means that it shouldn't be in the deck list to start with. Like, there were matchups where this card was good. I left it in the deck. It is a fine tool to have. I just don't think that this is quite going to get there. More generally, the list that I played, I think, was okay. Unsure about Extraction Specialist in a world where there's so much white removal with, like, prismatic endings and stuff, but, like, this is the sort of thing that if I had drawn it versus Delver, like, at some point before I was just, like, dead on board in that last round, like, playing that, getting a 3/2 lifelinker that, like, returned to Stoneforge Mystic or Thalia would have been a pretty huge game. So I like having access to one of these in my, 95, I guess. I don't know if I need to. 2 seems like a lot. So I would probably be looking at cutting these 3 cards if I were to run the league again. Field of Ruin was okay. Like, that plus Archivist of Oghma was definitely cute, and that was going to happen, but I think I killed my opponent. Otherwise, I kind of like the things that I have access to. I've seen some Death and Taxes people messing around with Leyline of the Void over, like, Rest in Pieces and Surgicals. Like, that's something you can do. I'm not overly excited about that. I really like Rest in Peace as a flexible sideboard card. Yeah. So overall, like, deck gets a thumbs up from me. But, you know, Blue Red Delver does what Blue Red Delver does. And I think we'll go ahead and leave it at that. Anyway, folks, I hope you enjoyed. That was a very grindy league. If you did, leave me a like on the way out. And, you know, if you're new here and you made it to the end, please consider subscribing. Have a great rest of the day. See ya.